this spring market, we're not seeing the activity that we typically do. So how do you entice people to come in is by lowering that price. But is it working? And that's the thing. You know, that's the thing I'm looking at right now is, will a price drop actually get people in?
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn, and welcome to our show, Shawn. In today's episode, we're going to be getting into the spring market. You know, as realtors, it's so cliche to say, like, the first week of January, it's the spring market. Oh, it feels like spring. Spring has sprung, you know, all the things. But now it actually is spring, Shawn. It is Wednesday, April the 2nd. How is your April treating you so far?
April is treating me, okay.
Are you a rabbit type of person? Do you say that? Rabbit?
No.
It's, I think it's from the Korean heritage. You say it the first of the month, and it's supposed to be good luck.
Rabbit.
So, I mean, my wife and I just say rabbit to each other, and we're just like trying to get all the good luck that we can.
Hey, yes, think positively, right? I mean, I think that's the key. Yeah, I didn't do any April Fools yesterday. I didn't even pull anything out of my pocket.
Is that the most overrated holiday? You
100%.
can't. It's not even a holiday. It's just like a day.
Yeah.
I mean, dumb.
It's dumb.
I don't like it anymore.
Move on, right? But other than that, spring market is spring market. You know, it's not the same spring market, and let's get into that, you know, as far as what we're used to, and in my opinion. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can start the numbers, and then we can go
let's do
through kind of stories from the trenches of what we're seeing. So, you know, we have the week ending March 30th in the Bright MLS weekly market update. Arlington brought 85 new listings to the market, which is a 51% increase from a year ago. However, Shawn, do you know what was happening a year ago? It was Easter, okay?
Yeah.
And now Easter is April 20th this year. Do you have any idea? Like, it's so confusing to me. Do you know when Easter is?
No.
Do you know how they come up with it?
It's like the third Thursday, something after blah, blah.
Dude, it's the moon.
The moon.
It's like the first full moon, and then it's like the Sunday after the first full moon.
Yeah.
What is this, the 1400s? We're like looking up at the sky to, can it just
basically
be like April 12th, every year?
I know.
So these numbers, they're all going to seem like way askew just because, well, maybe you don't list on Easter, a day that, you know, in our culture, in our area, most people just kind of hunker down, you know, spend time with their family, kind of lie low, spend quality time. They're not really blowing up their agent, going to, you know, see all these open houses on a Sunday, which is usually meant for the family. How does Easter factor into your listings and time frames?
Oh, definitely. Easter is definitely, and I'll give you an example this month coming up. Our spring break is right before Easter. So that whole week, most people in this area will be thinking of something else, probably going away, probably doing something fun. I as well will be going to my beach house, so I'm trying to get away during that time frame. And then Easter hits that.
Wait, I thought Arlington County spring break was April 7th to the 11th.
No?
It's
the following week.
It's the 14th to the 18th.
14th through the 18th. Okay. Yep. So that whole week is spring break. So, you know, activity will be lower, and then Easter. And Easter is always one of those tough ones. And it's so funny because back in the day when I didn't have kids, and, you know, I would do Sunday open houses on Easter, and I remember like people coming through the open house or like talking to me, putting up my signs. They're like, "What are you doing on Easter? Like, why are you working on Easter?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Why am I working on Easter?" And I think it's time that, you know, we do take a break as real estate agents. We work all the time. Give us a break. Like, I think so. I discussed the whole spring break and Easter with multiple clients, and we decided to wait after Easter to go on because we were going to be ready right at that time frame. We're like, "Now let's wait a week till after." So it's really real. You have to think about when people are looking, why people are looking, and if it's going to be a slower week, if generally it's slower, maybe you wait for the next week. And so that's why we're seeing the skew of new listings to the market this week compared to a year ago, is because this week was Easter last year. And so naturally people are going to hold off and wait till the following week to list. And so right now we're going to see some people trying to get in before the Easter market and hopefully get under contract. And then we'll probably see fewer listings the week of spring break and Easter, and then we'll see a more of a push the week after that.
Yeah, it's maybe something where you're trying to zig when everyone else is zagging. Like you could be the only show in town if you list Easter weekend, but
Yeah.
I this spring I don't think you're going to be the only show in town because we are seeing certainly a rise in new listings. I think we were in the 90s last week for Arlington. We're in the 80s this week. You know, DC, there were 348 new listings, which is a 39.8% increase from a year ago, Easter last year. One figure to kind of consider right now is the amount of properties that have had a price drop. So the percent weekly active listings with a price drop. Historically, meaning 2022 to 2024, that number has hovered anywhere between 5 and maybe call it 6.5 to 7%. You know, right now we're closing in on 9%. So about like 2.5% increase in the Washington, D.C. metro area. Shawn, is this the reality that you're seeing, or are you just not in the meat of the market that you're working in? You're just not seeing active listings with price decreases.
No, I'm seeing it. You're definitely seeing it because what we're doing is we're testing the market this year, and every year is a test. Every year is different, and so we are going based on prices from last year or the comps that we have most recently. And this is another problem. This is always a big problem every year, is finding comps that would support your price point. And so, you know, in different areas, in condos, I'm looking at certain things, and in houses, I'm looking at something else. But it's frustrating because sometimes it's very hard to find a real comp. And so a lot of times we're guessing about the spring market. We're saying, all right, well, maybe we can get it here. Let's try this. And then this spring market, we're not seeing the activity that we typically do. So how do you entice people to come in is by lowering that price. But is it working? And that's the thing. You know, that's the thing I'm looking at right now is, will a price drop actually get people in? In some instances, yes. In some instances, no.
You had mentioned comps. When it comes to your comp set, how in-depth are you looking at the comparable properties? Meaning, oh, this other one was tax assessed at this value. We're tax assessed at this value. So let's apply this, equation to get us to a certain price. Oh, this one, had an extra half bathroom. That's exactly $3,500 that we can add. Oh, this one was a split level. We're a colonial. Our value is, $18,500 more than this housing style. How like in depth is it, or is it more so? Listen, that kitchen was terrible. Yours is a lot better. That's about $50,000. Let's put it there, and then the market's going to take it wherever it takes.
That's what I do. I do not get into the nitty gritty of 5,030. That's an appraiser's job. You can get as deep as you want, and you could sit there. And I know people do this, and they will spend days and days in analyzing. And it's like, dude, it's not worth it, man. What I look at is 4 algorithms. I kind of look at those first. I'll look at the tax values, compare those tax values, and I'll look at the house and I'll say, all right, well, this is this amount of square feet, and this is this amount of square feet. Look at the pictures, and maybe add a little bit, subtract a little bit for bathrooms and bedrooms. But I'm not going like, okay, this one's $2,500. Like that is just so analytical. That's for an engineer to do. That's for an appraiser to do. For us, it's like, in general, how are we going to get this price? And I'll tell you, there's 2 different scenarios. Like I said before, condos is easier because you're looking at stacks. So if you can find something in that stack, then you're gonna, that's gonna be pretty much your comp. But what I'm finding right now is that all my listings have been upgraded so well that I'm trying to push for a new price point. And that's where, I'm looking at comps and I'm saying, all right, your value's here, but look how much you've done. You've spent $100,000 in this place. Let's put your price up here and see what the market says. So that's another reason why we might start seeing price drops, is because in our area, some of these condos are starting to get older. And as you get older, people are like, well, I got to renovate this thing. They sometimes spend way too much money on those, and then you're trying to price it for that variance. So it's tough in that regard. In another sector, in houses, like say in Alexandria, when I was coming up with this price now, and I'm waiting for an appraiser right now. I should be getting it back today. But the tough thing is, in the Alexandria market where I'm at in Beverly Hills area, there's a lack of garages. There's a 1-car garage here and there, but my listing has a 2-car garage. And I think that's a pretty significant upgrade for houses. When people are looking for garages and there's none, and then all of a sudden you have a 2-car garage, that should give it a little bit more of a bump in most instances, because there's a lack of that in that area. And then, the other thing I was looking at is, the unreliability of decent comps. While, you can go into Beverly Hills and you can pull certain comps, and I can definitely get my value. I like to kind of stay in my little enclave, and there's just wasn't as many for sale in there that have sold in there. So what I'll do is I'll go back even further and I'll try to find the best comp. And there was one a street over that sold. It was priced at 1.2 and it ended up selling for 1.25, and it was smaller. And I'm like, well, this kind of gives you an idea of value right there, right? It was a year ago, but I can extrapolate that and say, well, listen, that went from 1.2 to 1.25. It was interest that pushed it up, and maybe our value, our house is bigger. It has 2-car garage. I think we should price it here and see what the market says. And that's kind of how you come about this. The unfortunate thing is that appraisers can't use that. They can't look at that and they can't extrapolate from a year ago, where I think it's very valuable information and I think it's highly overlooked. And what do you think algorithms are using? They're using that data. Why can't an appraiser? And that's what drives me crazy. And, today we're going to get the news of the appraisal. And, this is an opinion of value hired by somebody outside of the bank to come and analyze this. But appraisers are inside boxes, right? I can only give this much value for this. I can only give this much value for this. Whereas, should it be that strict? Should it be that I can only give you $10,000 for this? Or if it's slightly above grade, it's a different value than, main floor, and then basement is a different value. Yeah, I could see that. But there are a lot of things that we as agents don't know about appraisals that are very in-depth. And at some point, I think we should have an appraiser in here to tell us the differences, because I've gone to some classes on this, and it's crazy how strict these appraisals are held.
So if they're not able to use that information, but maybe you could make a strong argument that it's very pertinent to the discussion, how do you get that value and how do you get that perception across to the appraiser?
You don't sometimes. I mean, I've argued about it.
Do you meet the appraiser at the property?
No, I don't
email
do that.
them? Do you give them?
I think it's highly annoying. I mean, they have the same information that we have. They can cherry pick the same stuff that we're going to cherry pick.
They may not know which comps that you're using or something.
They might not, but they're appraisers and they should. And if they're highly paid appraisers, they should know the values of these markets that they're appraising. They should know the nuances, just like agents do. We know the nuances, so should that appraiser. If you are a professional in this area, you should be hired to do the job that you're hired to do, and you should know those nuances. And if you're from outside the area, I don't go to Hyattsville to sell property, and neither should an appraiser from Hyattsville come into Alexandria or Arlington to do an appraisal, because they don't know the nuances. So if you're a professional in this area, stay a professional in this area, know the ins and outs of these markets, know what values can change or how they can change in certain markets, and what little areas lack certain other things, like 2-car garages.
Hyattsville, catching strays on the Shawn and Matt show. Well, comment down below if you'd like to see an appraiser on the show. That could certainly be an interesting discussion, because even in these Facebook groups, there was an agent asking, hey, I've got a condo, but it has 4 parking spots. How can I assign value? And someone was like, oh, well, parking spots are worth, $25,000. But I don't think that 4th parking spot is also worth $25,000. I think maybe you sell some off, but if you try to, sell it for $100,000 more than a normal, condo, I think you're going to run into a lot of bad luck.
Let me go into that. That's actually a really good point, because I've sold a condo with 4 parking spots, and it's really difficult to sell that property at the value it should be with those 2 parking spots. So sometimes it's even better just to sell off the parking spots beforehand for, $25,000, $30,000 in Arlington. That's what they're worth. Certain buildings, $32,000, $35,000, other buildings, $50,000. So to realize that, you have to know how to realize that. And so I have a crazy, kind of a weird story right now. In one building, I have 3 listings. They're condos, and each one is slightly different. And one has 1 parking space with a tenant in it. It sells for $410,000. Another one on the 6th floor, great view over the pool, very well done renovation. It's selling for $450,000. I have another one that's upgraded as well, but has 2 parking spaces, and it's priced at $435,000. That's the one that hasn't sold yet for $435,000. The other 2 are under contract. And it's like, a lot of times it's harder to sell those because a 1-bedroom condo isn't looking for 2 parking spaces typically.
So how much does the second parking spot rent out for if another owner?
$150 a month.
And so are you conveying that to
Yes.
buyers and saying, hey, here's the income produced?
Here's what you could do. You could sell that spot for in this building $20,000 to $25,000, and that's where we priced the listings slightly higher because of that. And then you could rent it out for $150. That's pretty typical with Arlington parking spot rentals. So it's tough, like I said, I've sold the ones with 4 parking spots before. They were tandems. If they're tandem spots, one behind the other, it's a totally different value. If it's 4 single spots, completely different value. So look at those.
All right. Well, I'm looking at them, and I'm clicking around on Zillow, and I'm looking at these listings, and some random listings like the cover photo, it's just like looks a little too perfect. It's just like every little detail is perfect, and it got me wondering about AI, because recently, I guess ChatGPT updated their image. By the way, I ask ChatGPT like 100 questions a day.
Yeah,
like
that's great.
I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, make me this image and do it right now and do it in 4K and high def. ChatGPT's at my mercy.
Yeah.
But it's got me wondering about the legality and the ethics about how agents are using AI to enhance their listings, right? Because it's one thing to hey, virtually stage a room with some couches and then like say, hey, this is virtually staged. It's another thing to like put in fake grass, right? Or like remove a telephone pole in front of the house, or like remove a tree, an unsightly tree or something like that. So, I mean, where do you see this going? How many listing photos are going to be using AI if they're not already? And, where do you draw that line between, okay, this is allowed, and okay, this is like fraud and deception and false marketing?
Yeah, it's going to be used more and more and more as we get deeper into this. I think true photos are the best photos. I think you showed me one that was like they removed a freaking tree from the front of the house. The house looked completely different. You can't do that.
Well, the tree wasn't in bloom, and so it just looks like this dead, gawkily, looking branchy tree. I'm sure if it was in bloom, it would just block the whole house.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the alternative, you take a photo of a dead tree, you take a photo of the tree in bloom, and you can't even see the house, or you
delete the dead tree.
You delete.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they deleted the dead tree, or you could do. It wasn't a dead tree. They deleted the tree that was dormant, or you do a crazy different angle, or like an interior shot. But for single family houses, it is like super weird when the first photo is an interior shot.
Yeah.
Because if it's like, all right, how much of a mess is the outside?
Yes.
But I kind of like, listen, I'm not taking the side of the agent that removes a noticeable and significant part of the front of the property. But I'm trying to have empathy of like, what would you do in that scenario? How would you do like a high elevation? Would you do a drone shot? How do you get around that?
Yeah, and that's the problem is we are marketers at the same time as real estate agents. We have to try to get people into these properties. And how are you going to do that? What is the best picture to use for the front of that listing? And in my opinion, if it's a condo, I'm using an interior picture. I don't care what the building looks like. I want to know what that unit looks like, right? So every time I'm using the best picture of that living room and I'm saying this is the picture. If I'm selling a single family house, I'm getting a night shot with lights on, beautiful shot at night, and I'm putting that house as pretty as it can be on that first picture. And then I quickly go into the interior. I don't think people want to see 9,000 exterior pictures before they get into the house. I think 1 or 2 is good. Then go through the house and then leave the extra exterior pictures for last, right? I'm very particular in my picture order.
I posted that on Echo Title. I said, hey, if you have a condo, do you always post the exterior, always post the interior first, or does it depend on which is nicer? I got some interesting responses. Mm-hmm. Basically, many people felt strongly that you should pretty much always do the exterior of the building first.
Not me, baby.
So,
I don't think so. And the reason is,
something to think about.
People do you really care what, yeah, you can care about that. And it used to be a rule that your exterior picture had to be first. That was a rule back in the day. And that was back in the day when we had 1, 3 pictures, 5 pictures. Remember, like you couldn't, you had to have an exterior. So I highly disagree with that. I sell a lot of condos, and the way that people get in that door is with that beauty, that pretty picture. Now, I have to agree that it feels weird when you're selling a single family home and you're using an interior picture.
So how is it different with a condo?
Because a condo, when you're buying a house, you're buying the whole house, yard and everything. When you're buying a condo, you're not buying the whole building. You're buying the unit. The unit is what matters. People typically know what the building looks like because they can look and see 9,000 pictures of the front of that building, right? I have them. Like, I'll put them at the end. But really what is attracting people, and think about it as you as a buyer. What is attracting you to the house? The house, the exterior, you're like, wow, this is a great looking house. Boom, let's go inside. To a condo, what's attracting you? The building? Probably not. It's how pretty is this building? Where is it located? Okay, wow, it's a great looking place. Do I care what the exterior looks? Okay, let's look at, later down the line. But for me, I put myself in the buyer's shoes and I'm like, I want a beautifully staged interior picture. And when I say staged, I'm saying actually staged.
Like
not
touch and feel.
Yeah, because when you walk into a place, it's all about how you feel. And when you look at a picture, it's all about how you feel. Like they say, a picture tells 1,000 words or whatever. It's true. So make sure that your picture that you're using is the correct picture. It's not deceptive. And it's a true general idea of what that property looks like when it's being sold.
Have you ever paid for virtual staging?
Hell no.
What do they charge? Like $75, $150? Do you think anyone's going to ever pay for that ever again?
You can just have ChatGPT do it for you, right?
You just have ChatGPT, hey, throw in a bed, throw in a table, throw in a desk area.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. And I never liked, I could tell if it was virtually staged. They've gotten better and better, but like, why? The reality is, yes, the picture will get them in the door, but when they go in that door, how are they feeling? And if they're like expecting all this furniture and nice, and they come and it's like, hello, 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 echo. No, it's cold feeling, man. You have to make people feel warm when they walk into a place. And how do you do that? With staged furniture. And I do it every time.
So in what circumstances are you going to use AI in your listing photos?
I'm not, probably.
But like, what if you get the photos back and you're like, oh man, they forgot about this garbage can can easily be removed. That's not a permanent fixture sort of deal.
Yeah, if you come by and there's like something that you forgot to remove, then I could see if the AI can remove that, that's something I would do. Or if you get like sometimes, man, this is another problem with pictures and companies changing who they're using to format those pictures. So the photographer just goes in and they click through, but then they send them to somebody that what's the word I'm looking for?
Edits them,
right? And so they're going to pull the contrast up or pull the lighting in or blah, blah, blah. So different editors, especially when companies are changing editors, which my company just did, and the pictures are coming back and they're driving me crazy because things are off.
Because you're using the wrong company.
Well, true in some instances. So I started trying different companies. But the thing is, that editor is important. So what you can do is just say, hey, AI, can you pull up the contrast and pull down this? Maybe that's an option and make these things look the best they can. But what really matters is the raw images. And what most photographers are doing is taking 3 or 4 shots of one particular angle, and then they're fusing them together with different lighting. And that's how they get the outside in.
HDR.
HDR, it's great. So you have to have those raw images to really do what you need to do to make them look the best they can.
Yeah, I think only in like dire circumstances will I use AI. I've seen some people say, oh, well, I have got an old listing, so here's, it reimagined with like quartz countertops and things like that. And, hey, that could work.
Yeah, and I saw another example of a guy that was buying a lot or selling a lot, and he said, reimagine this commercial space as with this, and this, right?
Yes.
And it looked, and the guy's like, I'm never using an architect again because I can just have full renderings in a day, whereas this would take me months to do.
What about like some spruced up like floor plans?
Yeah.
I've never seen an easement that looks palatable. I always have to like translate it. Like what do all these lines mean and stuff. So if you could have like an artistic easement or an artistic floor plan, that could be kind of cool.
Yeah. There are ways to use it. Like you're saying, those are really great. I've seen really good renderings for that. But actual pictures, stay away from like...
I think we're going to see some egregious uses. Like the pendulum's going to swing pretty far.
Yeah,
and then we're going to have to wrangle agents back in. But I also think that there is some liability out there for the agents that are removing trees, adding green grass. Because, we're in Northern Virginia. People love to sue everyone for no reason at all.
Of course. And, the one other thing is like you can do your night shots, right? the beautiful night shots that are real. And then you can do like the virtual night shots where they put like a pink sky behind it and they put like every window on at the same
So bad.
and it looks so bad. And I'm like, I'm never going to do virtual anything. I want natural beauty from that picture. And that's, and enhanced, of course, right? But it's a real picture.
I love and I'm not trying to like poo-poo on like for sale by owners, but every now and then you see like a FSBO and they try to do night photography. You're like, this isn't night photography. This is just a photo at night of the house. And it's just like so dark, and there's like a porch light on, and there's just like harsh shadows everywhere. Like, this is just a photo at night. All right, well, that'll just about do it for another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. Let us know your thoughts on the spring market below and AI in photos. Are you in or out? For Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.